Hi there. Welcome to another episode of Slowing Down with the Scriptures. I'm Chris Matley. Thanks for joining me. I have something a little different to offer you in this episode. I don't have prepared notes or remarks or insights or biting social commentary. I just have a psalm to bring you. This is Psalms 46. And what I want to do is read this psalm and allow it to minister to you and to me. I want to allow it to do what it was meant to do, which is to inspire us with its beauty, but also to change us from the inside out with its wisdom. I'm partially inspired to do this by a conversation I had with a friend of mine this week who's experiencing some genuine tragedy in their life. And David experienced genuine tragedy in his life, and he wrote about it honestly in these songs. And so I thought, what better place to look for comfort than this psalm here, Psalms 46. So I'm going to read this to you. I'm going to break it down first before I do. It's very short. In fact, in the English translation, it's only 11 verses. But in the original Hebrew, it's 2 verses, and then a refrain, and then one more verse, followed by the same refrain. It's also punctuated 3 times by a Hebrew word, Selah. Selah is an interesting word because it doesn't get translated into English because it has no English translation. So it just appears in the English Bible there, Selah. The reality is that nobody really knows what it means. Some people guess that it had a musical connotation. Others say it just meant to pause and reflect. Some say it meant to pause and breathe, as if you are breathing in the wisdom that was just shared. It could be any or all of those things. My own take on it is that Selah is a beautiful word with intrinsic value on its own, and I just appreciate its sound and its cadence and its placement. So we'll just appreciate it that way this morning. So let me read this first verse for you. This is Psalms 46. It starts this way. God is our refuge and our strength, an ever-present help in trouble. Therefore we will not fear, though the earth give way, and the mountains fall into the heart of the sea, though its waters roar and foam, and the mountains quake with their surging. Selah. Many people believe that David wrote prophetically in his Psalms with one eye on the present and one eye on the future. In fact, this is supported by some Psalms that seem to paint a picture of Jesus and who would come to save the people of Israel and you and I as well. And some people, when they read Psalms like this, they think that David is talking about some future event, the end of the world, tumultuous times, perhaps. And that may be, but I also think that he was talking about pain and suffering and how those things can make it seem like your world is ending, that your whole world is falling apart. And he uses this visceral language of mountains falling into the sea and the earth giving way. Because that's what it feels like, isn't it, when we experience tragedy and sorrow? It feels like our world is ending. And then he goes on to say in verse 2, there is a river, thank God there's a river, whose streams make glad the city of God, the holy place where the Most High dwells. God is within her, she will not fall. God will help her at the break of day. Nations are in uproar, kingdoms fall. He lifts his voice, the earth melts. This is a beautiful picture of the comfort that comes straight from the heart of God. He describes this as a river that breaks off into many streams. Many streams because there's many people of God, many tribes and many nations. And he describes this comfort both coming from God and also residing within his people, as God resides within his people. And it said God will help her at the break of day. That's something that my wife and I tell our kids at night. Tomorrow is a brand new day. Because God's mercies are new every morning. Here's the refrain that I talked about. This is repeated twice. This is the first time. It's this beautiful little phrase that says, "The Lord Almighty is with us. The God of Jacob is our fortress. Selah." This is the last verse. He says this, "Come and see the works of the Lord, the desolations he's brought on the earth." So now he's inviting us in to a deeper view of what God is accomplishing in the earth. Here's what he says about God. He makes wars cease to the ends of the earth. That sounds pretty good, doesn't it? He breaks the bow and shatters the spear. He burns the shields with fire. So there's this violent imagery of a God who is violently putting an end to violence, destroying the weapons of war, remaking the earth in his image, and restoring beauty and peace. And then he follows up this violent imagery with one of the most beautiful verses in the Bible. He says this, "Be still and know that I am God. I will be exalted among the nations. I will be exalted in the earth." I think oftentimes we hear this verse, "Be still and know that I am God," in isolation. I think I saw it on a t-shirt one time. But that verse in isolation, although still beautiful and comforting, lacks the context. What is it that we're meant to be comforted about? Just that he merely is God? Well, the context tells us that our comfort comes in that there will be a glorious end to all this inglorious pain and suffering. You have a story. You are living out the story of your life, and that story has an end. But in the Christian tradition, that end is just the beginning. And in fact, God has beauty and comfort and amazing things on the other side of the end of that story for you. And that should bring us comfort. And then he follows up with that refrain. "The Lord Almighty is with us. The God of Jacob is our fortress. Selah." Now, I told you I didn't have any notes. That's mostly true, but I did write down the Hebrew translation of that refrain because I'd heard it once before, and I thought it very beautiful in the Hebrew. So I'm going to read that for you right now. "The Lord Almighty is with us. The God of Jacob is our fortress. Selah." In Hebrew, it sounds like this. Yahweh, Seboath, Imanu, Miskab, Lanu, Elohi, Yachab, Selah. If those first two words sound familiar to you, Yahweh, Seboath, it's because you probably heard them before. It means the Lord of hosts, the Lord of the heavenly armies. It ascribes all of the power in the universe to God, meaning he's fully in control. Whatever it is that feels out of control to you right now, he's in charge. He's got this. He's curating your story even now and writing a beautiful end to it. Thanks for joining me for this reflection. I hope this psalm ministered to you the way it did to me. I love you guys. I'll see you next time.